Hi everybody, this is Bonnie with Bonnie Bay Crochet, and today I want to show you how to make my quick and easy broomstick scarf. This was so much fun to make with this self-striping yarn, and I only used one skein of the red heart yarn that I'm going to show you in just a minute. It's called Bitty Stripes, and this is really quite a good technique for a confident beginner and above. If you've never tried broomstick, I encourage you to do that. I think you'll just love the way the lace is formed and the way the stitches just kind of just beautifully fan out for this stitch. This is actually quite an old stitch, even if it may be a new stitch to us today. And a lot of the times people would crochet this using an actual broomstick handle. Now, I'm not going to use a broomstick handle when I crochet this. I'm actually going to use a size 50, which is also a 25.00 millimeter knitting needle. You're going to only need one. So if you have one of those, they're about this big if you see them in the stores, and they're usually red. Sometimes they're blue with the brands that are available in the US. I'm going to be using a set of circular knitting needles, which are not required for this project, but just so happens to be what I have on hand, because it makes working the broomstick on other projects that I'm going to be bringing forth to my channel much easier. But anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at what you're going to need. For this project, I'm going to be using one skein of Yarnspiration's Red Heart Super Saver. This is a Bitty Stripes. This is 10 ounce, 283 grams, 515 yards, or 471 meters. And let's go ahead and take a look at the color. This is called Rainbow Mist. I'm also recommending that you have a size I or 9 or 5.50 millimeter crochet hook, a yarn needle, a pair of sharp scissors. I'm also recommending that you have at least one knitting needle that is size 50 or 25.0 millimeters. I'm using a circular pair just because this is what I have available, but if you just have a long, straight, single knitting needle of the same size, that would be sufficient for what we're going to do today. You're also going to need a sturdy book. This one is approximately 9 inches long and 1 inch wide, and that's going to yield 20-inch strands when I wrap my yarn around this, which is going to give us 10-inch fringe. Now, if you don't have a sturdy book, you can also use a piece of cardboard or anything that you can easily wrap yarn around. To begin, we're going to start with a slip knot and the starting chain of 29 chains. For row number 1, we're just going to start in the second chain from the hook, and we're going to work a single crochet in each chain all the way across. That will give you a starting foundation of 28 single crochets. This is what you should have after completing the first row. Now for rows 2 and 3, we are simply going to turn, chain 1, and single crochet in each stitch across, and that will again give you 28 stitches for each row. This is what you should have after completing 3 rows. Now for the 4th row, we're going to bring in our large knitting needles. We just need one again, and we're going to start with a chain 1, and I'm going to pull that a little tight just so that it's taut, and then we're going to pull up a loop. We're going to insert the knitting needle into that loop and go ahead and pull it so that it's, it's just snug. It doesn't have to be super tight, but it does need to be a bit snug. All right, after that, we are going to insert our needle under the 2 loops just like you normally would. We're going to be working from left to right, or from right to left if you're watching the left-handed version. Okay, we're going to wrap our hook, pull up a loop, pull it all the way up, and lift it up and over the needle, and then we're going to pull it nice and even. We're going to do that for every stitch around. Pull through a loop and tighten it. And do that again. Insert, wrap the hook, and we pull up a loop and then slip it over the needle. It's really quite simple. So if you're an absolute beginner, I think you can probably learn this. It's no more difficult than learning some of the other basic crochet stitches. It looks a little more complicated, but it really isn't. And that's kind of our little secret. And you can make some beautiful textures with this. And it is nice to learn this with the acrylic that I am working with, because there is a stiffness to it. It's of course not the softest. I'm very much aware of that. But that's a good thing while learning, because the loops will not slip as much, won't slip out of place. Okay. But this also is a beautiful stitch for using thinner yarns, and I do have some that will be coming shortly to my channel if they're not already there. But using thinner yarns, and the texture is just unbelievable and just very elegant. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and complete working this all the way across, and then I'll show you what the next step is. This is what you should have after completing putting all the loops on. So this is row 4. Now, if you are using the larger, just a straight knitting needle that are not circulars, that's absolutely fine. Actually, those might actually be a little bit easier for this project. But anyway, so now the next step for row 5 is to just take all the loops off. Don't be afraid of doing this. They're not gonna all disappear or get messed up, but it is a little bit scary to do this at first. I admit that. You want to be careful though not to pull on this strand until you've gotten your 4 strings. So what we're going to do now is pick up 4 of the loops just like this onto the crochet hook, and notice how even they all are. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to wrap the hook, pull it through, and we're just going to make a chain to start, and you do this at the beginning of the row only. Now we're going to work 4 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's what we're going to do all the way across. We're going to get the next 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's as easy as that. Wrap, pull it through, yarn over, and then go ahead and you finish the first single crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're going to have 7 clusters across. I'll just do them with you. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yarn over, pull it through, and it is easy. I promise you, I am not extraordinarily skilled. Most even confident beginners can accomplish this stitch. It's not overtly complicated once you understand what to do. 1, 2, 3, and 1 more. 4. So we have 4. Yarn over, pull it through, yarn over, first single crochet, 2, 3, and 4. And let's just work that all the way across. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can always double check once you pull them up to make sure that you got them in order. It's probably a good idea, especially when you're just starting this stitch, to try to, if you're going to pull out the knitting needle out of the loops, go ahead and work the row number 5 here that follows. Okay, so we pull up the next 4. Otherwise, if you just put it in the bag with the loose loops, it's more likely to kind of get pulled out, and you know, some trouble could come about by that. But I would go ahead and try to finish this particular row off if you can. Now at the end, we're going to have 5 loops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's just the nature of the way this works. Even if you change the number of stitches, as long as you're working 4 in each, you're going to end up with that extra loop. It's not a problem, I promise you. You can skip this loop when you're pulling up the loops onto the knitting needle, but if you do that, there's going to be a significant gap. So I just encourage you, just go ahead and work all 5 together, and we're going to do it just the same with only 4 single crochets. But I'm going to show you once I finish this. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the row. It's really hard to tell that this has 5 and the others have 4. It's very very difficult to tell that there is any difference. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit, just to give you confidence in going forward. Okay, so now the next 2 rows are very easy. Chain 1, turn, and we're going to single crochet in each stitch across. So go ahead and do those 2 rows. This is what you should have after completing 7 rows. Now for the remainder, what we are going to do is we're going to repeat rows 4, 5, 6, and 7. The 4-row repeat continually, just over and over again, and I'll go ahead and start the next row off for you, just so that you have a second chance at looking at the instruction. Of course, if you need more stitch support, you can always look at the bottom of the screen, and I will put a time mark there where row 4 begins, and you can look at that again. So I'll go ahead and start row 8 with a chain, and remember pulling that somewhat tightly. I'm gonna stick the needle in there, and again, make sure it's snug, not super tight, but just snug. You don't want it to be too loose. And then again, stick the hook into the top of those, under those 2 loops, pull up a loop, and then tighten. And so we will do that all the way across. Again, this is the same as row number 4. So go ahead and repeat rows 4, 5, 6, and 7 until the scarf is the length that you desire. And then I will show you some finishing touches. I have continued working on my scarf until I have a total of 36 broomstick cluster rows and the extra stitches added. And so what I've done is, after working those 2 broomstick rows, is just work the 2 additional rows of single crochet. Now again, this is approximately 57 inches long at this point without the fringe, and the fringe is going to be adding considerable length. So at this point, I am going to fasten off, and I'm just going to go ahead. I've made my chain. I'm going to pull a little tighter there, and we're going to cut our strand. And now I'm going to hide my loose strands before I add the fringe, and I'll show you how to make the fringe as well. So a very easy way to do this, using our yarn needle. I'm going to do this with the back side facing. I'm just going to come down into the stitches like so. And that way that knot is going to be hidden. And I'm going to run it under the stitches just like this. And you're going to want to make sure that this is not showing on the other side as you do this. And also try to hide it under a similar color so that it doesn't stand out, especially if it's a contrasting color. All right, so that should be plenty. And this yarn is not going to pull out. There's enough friction amongst the fibers here. Well, I was looking for a word to mean not so soft, but it's not exactly rough, but it's just got enough texture to the yarn itself to, just help with learning this stitch. And again, this will soften up in time, especially if you soak it a little bit with some hair conditioner. That will oftentimes help with the feel of the yarn. All right, so let's go ahead And now we're going to talk about making fringe. Now it's time for us to get our book. And what we are going to do with this is we are simply going to wrap the yarn. We're just going to hold it, let's see, on one end. And we're just going to wrap the yarn around the book like so. And I'm going to go ahead and do that 50 times. So once we've done that, then we're going to cut all the strands right from the top. Make sure you have a good pair of sharp scissors that will cut through the yarn and not yarn that will just gnaw at it. Okay, so let's go ahead and grab that fringe. We're going to move our book out of the way. Now, depending on how you want to do the fringe, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just mix the colors up as much as I can here. And if you want to even cut more fringe so that you get the blues and the greens in there, go ahead and do that now. So after cutting additional strands, I'm just going to pick some random colors out because I want just a good mix of color for the strands. But you can also do it however you want. You can, mix in, just make them all the same color for these tassels. It's whatever you want to do. I just really want to blend really well here as we go. So after selecting a good mix of the colors, I did cut additional fringe right over here so that I would have a lot to choose from. I'm not going to use all of this, but I just wanted more to pick from. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to hold this together. I'm holding the center up here with my finger, and I'm going to even these out down here, and I'm grabbing it with my hand like that. Now the front side of the scarf is facing here. I'm going to go into the first stitch, and I'm coming in from the back side of the scarf, okay? That's kind of important. And I'm going to pull these through the stitch like this, put all the strands over, and then pull them through, and then gently tug. And that's how the tassel is going to be. All right, so let's go ahead and do that again. I'm going to select, again, a good mix of the colors. And have fun doing this. This is the finishing touches, and it's always fun to add the fringe. And now this is where you can have the freedom to do, whatever you want as far as the spacing. Again, I'm lining these up as best as I can. Don't worry if they're not totally even, because we're going to trim them once we finish up. So we're going to line these up as best we can. Okay. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches and then come into the next stitch. Okay, pull it down. Notice I came in from the back side, pull that through, yarn over, and then pull through all the yarn and give it a nice tug. All right, skip the next 2, and then we're going to do that again. So I'm going to do that all the way across the row, and then I'll show you what I have when I'm finished. I also wanted to give you an example of what it's like to apply the same fringe to the foundation row. This is where the original chain was worked. It's the same, except that you're going in those 2 loops of that chain. Again, coming in from the back side to the front side, and put the loops over, pull it through. It might be a little tighter. There we go, because it was a chain that we're working in, but it shouldn't be a problem. Yarns over, pull them through, and then pull this down. And if you see how these strands are just not as even, you can just pull the individual color and just pull them down, which is very convenient. All right, so go ahead and work both sides of the end of the scarf. So now that we have all of our beautiful fringe attached, let's go ahead and trim it just a bit, because I know it may not be perfect on the ends. Not that anything's ever totally perfect, but we can certainly even this up a bit, and we should have plenty of space, so we can trim about 1 inch or so off the bottom of each of these strands, and that looks so much better. Again, this is where your sharp scissors is going to come in very handy, and there we go. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this up, and this will be all finished. Well, I hope you enjoyed making my quick and easy broomstick scarf with me today. If you did, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. I would love to hear. And if you want to ever send me photos of your completed projects from my channel, I would love to see them as well. And you can always email them to me, and my email address is in the video description as well. God bless. Bye-bye.